For C Sharp, let's take a look at creating some variables and displaying those values. I'm going to start a new C Sharp project. I'm selecting C Sharp and I'm going to do a console application. I'm going to give it a new name, module, and I'm going to make sure that I know where it's being saved at. So I've got my solution name here and I'm going to click OK. And for this one I'm using Visual Studio 2015 Community. To start off with, I'm going to test my setup with my hello world. Now I want to pause the output. I could run debug and without debugging, but for our purposes I want to stick with running debug, stop debugging, and console read line, and this is purely to pause the output. I could put system in front of here if I wanted the full path, but I don't need to do that since I've already said that I'm included this with my program. I'm already saying that I'm already using system here, so since I'm using it there, I don't need to put it here, kind of a shortcut. Okay, now that we've got that working, debug, and I'm going to use debug start debugging, and it looks like everything's working. Okay, let's stop this. Now let's see about declaring and initializing some variables. I declared some variables in here. One, I declared an integer data type, which is a whole number, and named it num1. So in the computer's memory there's a location that I've called num1, and now on the next line, and I can put these on a separate line or a different line, I'll put these on the same line. You notice that this semicolon means that this is the end of this particular statement. So once it's the end, I can go ahead and put this on the same line. And here it says this is the end of this statement. So I've declared it here, and here I've initialized it with a value. So in the computer's memory, there's a value called num1, and I've stored a value of 55 in there. Now this is a variable, so if I wanted to, what I could do is that I could change that, and I could say num1 now is equal to 324. So I can change this or vary the value of what's being stored in there, and it will display the latest value. So here I have a character data type, and you notice when I called it C, and you notice that when I initialized that, I did that first, I did this all in the same line, but for a character data type I use these single quotes. Now if I were to try to use double quotes around it, it would give me that red squiggly line and say represents text as a series of Unicode characters, in other words a string. So it thinks you're trying to store a string into a character field. Here is a string, and I do put double quotes around that one. And here's a double data type. And it has a green squiggly line under it. Okay, let's see why. Down here in my console right line, I'm saying display this string, whatever's between these double quotes, and then concatenate that with num1. In other words, join these two together when you output that. So go to the memory location of the local variable called num1 and pull up whatever's been stored in there. Same thing with the char data type, which is called C. Same thing with the string data type called str. Now, you notice one thing I did not display in here is the double data type. I could do that, but just to show you what happens, it's saying that we've assigned a value to this, but we never use it. So if you wanted to place that into your output string, that would work just fine. Okay, so I'm going to debug, and again I'm going to go with start debugging. And there is what I told it to do. It says the literal string num1 equals, which is right here, and then it goes and pulls up that actual value. Okay, same way with the char data type, same way with the string. And it would have been the same way with the double had I put that in there. Okay. That's, well, let's see. Let's try one more thing. Let's convert one data type to another data type. So say for instance I've got num1 here, and it's storing a integer data type. What if I try to put in some string? It gives me the red squiggly line because it's trying to convert a string into an integer data type, and that's just not going to work. So let's go back, and instead let's do this. Let's say here's the string data type that we had before and initialized with the name Robert, but let's change it, and let's say string, and what we're going to do is convert num1 into a string and then store it into the str variable name, and let's see if that will work. So convert num1 to a string and assign it or store it into the variable location called str. Let's try this. Debug, start debugging. And there it did. So the string now is set to 324, which was the integer data type. So you can convert these different data types from one to the other. Okay, that's all for this video. If I were done with this, I'd make sure I saved all, and then what I would do is that I would go to, in this case I'm in Windows, so I'll go to File Explorer, and default location was Visual Studio 2015 for me, under Projects, and here's the name of that project I was working on. I'm going to drill down in here and just make sure that everything's there. So it looks like everything's there. I'll drill down a little more. Okay, so it looks like everything's there. So now that I'm done with that, I'm going to go to the highest level, right click, send to compressed zip file, or if you don't, for some reason the compression program isn't available in Windows. Windows does have a compression program that comes with it, but sometimes it's hard to access. But I just need to zip this, and then I can right click on this and rename, if it will let me do that. No? Yeah, but if I do this, click on it once more, and then rename it to there I've got my file ready to go. And if I had another file that I wanted to send with it, I could just drag it in here if I wanted to. Okay. Okay. And that's it.